I just noticed something. When you switch your stance, when you're adding something like defense, you're also taking something away. I never noticed that before. So when you add defense, you lose speed. You add strength, you lose defense. You add dexterity, you lose strength. And when you add speed, you lose dexterity. That's new information for me. I thought it was just adding stuff. So every time I fight with extra strength, which is a bad thing because that leaves me vulnerable in my defense. So what I should be doing, I guess, is adding to defense on every one of these. So I want to redo the ranking on how I rank people. And how I want to do that is I'm going to focus on the abilities, the attributes down here. Strength, defense, dexterity, and speed. And it's going to be in that order. So if they have very good strength, then they're going to be in the top ranks. But if they have a very good strength and a shitty defense, like Zol and Ada and Jala, then they're not going to be top ranks, you know? One thing I know right now is Cross is going to be like the best person. I don't even like Cross. So let's take a look. And let's change these all to defense while I'm at it. So Budvar is very balanced. But he doesn't get to be in a top tier. Because his strength isn't his best quality. It's just even with everything else. In fact, you know what? To make this a lot more simpler to look at, a lot easier to look at, I'm gonna just put them at their normal stances. Alright. So strength is actually tied with dexterity for him. So that doesn't really put him in a top tier. Cassidy, her dexterity is the best. Orion, his strength is the weakest actually. Surprisingly. Lord Vrax, his strength and defense are the weakest. But he is very good with his attacks. His attacks are pretty great. Just like Lin Fei's. Nash. He has very good attack. Defense isn't the second best, but he's close to the top tiers. He's actually pretty good. Queen Nai, probably the best character, no matter which way I spin it. Her strength is her second best ability, and her defense is the best ability. She can give hits and she can take hits, and her attacks are some of the best. Hattori, I don't like her attacks very much. You have to be very skilled in order to get anywhere good with her. Even then, it's easy for someone with a lance class to tear apart someone who's using Hattori. Sir Roland has very good defense and average everything else. He's a bit slow, but speed is the least of my concerns. I don't care if someone is slow. Scarlet has very good attack, and her second best is defense, but it's tied with dexterity. She's actually pretty good. Thatch has more attack than I thought he did, but he's also fast instead of durable. His defense is the lowest, so he's not going to be in one of the top tiers. Ada, kind of the same story. Her abilities, strength, dexterity, and speed are all higher than average, but her defense is way below average. Even though she's got some really good attacks, if she gets hit, it's not too long before she's done for. If you can get someone who can hit her a lot, she's pretty much useless in a match. Sentinel has a great amount of defense, and his second ability is speed, so not a great setup for one of the top tiers, but he's still pretty good. Kind of the same story with Lucy in here, but his best ability is his speed. Now, having that much speed, and getting rid of everything else can be useful, can be very useful. He's actually pretty good. Teros, his best is attack, his second best is defense, so he is one of the top tiers. So we got 2 top tiers so far, Queen Nai and Teros. Did all of these switch to the default? That's good. Brynn is best with speed, and then just average with everything else. She's actually very good. She always sweeps in and pretty much steals kills from people. Asori, very good with dexterity and speed, pretty average with attack and defense, so he's not going to be one of the top tiers, but he's actually pretty good at hitting people, and when he does, it's not terrible. He does a decent amount of damage. Baraza is best with his defense and second best with his attack, and he used to be one of my top tiers, but I think doing more damage is more important, so he is not going to be one of the top tiers, even though he's pretty freaking good, and he has some unpredictable attacks. He's not going to be a top tier this time. Ember is above average on everything but defense, just like Ada. She has very good attacks, but when she gets hit, it's over. Azoth, his best is strength, and his second best is defense, so he is one of the top tiers. We got 3 top tiers now: Queen Nai, Azoth, and Teros. Koji, his best is dexterity, and I mean that'll be good for standing your ground and just knocking people about, but his strength is average, so you'd have to be hitting people quite often. He is not going to be one of the top tier. Olgrim looks like he could be in the top tier, but his best is defense, and he actually is pretty fast as well, so his strength and speed are just above average, and he's actually pretty good, but he's not going to be one of the top tier. He is one of my favorites, though. Diana, very average on everything. She's a bit above average on dexterity and speed. Definitely not one of the top tier, and I don't like playing with her too much because her attacks are weird. Jala has pretty much the same thing going on as Ada and Thatch and Ember, where she has low defense she has very high attack and dexterity. So she's very good to use if you do your best on not getting hit. Core, he has very good defense and his second best is attack, so he's not going to be a top tier, but he's very good to use. He can take a lot of hits, and even though it'll take a little more hits than some of these other people like Brawlhalla to knock someone out, it's pretty worth it. He's good to use. Wushang, I've been using him a bit more recently, and I found that he's fairly good. He's average on everything except for dexterity, so he's not going to be one of the top tier though. Val, her second best is defense, her best is speed. She's actually pretty good, but she has to do a lot of hits in order to knock someone out because her strength is her weakest and it's below average. She's not going to be one of the top tier. Ragnar, also not going to be one of the top tier because his best abilities are only slightly above average in its defense and dexterity. But he's pretty good in a fight. Cross is going to be one of the top tier, even though I don't like his fighting styles. They're all much too close range. There are a couple attacks that are good. One's longer range, and the other one is a jump attack. But he has strength as his number 1 and defense as his number 2, so he is in the top tier. We got 4 top tiers now. Mirage looks like he could be in the top tier. His defense isn't as bad as Ada and Brawlhalla's, so he can fare a bit better on the battlefield. But it's still not going to be able to put him in a top tier. Nyx, best is defense, but he's very weak with his strength. He decided to put it in speed instead, which means he can sweep in and steal kills, but he has to jump off of the platforms. He has to jump off of the maps in order to achieve his goals, or the person has to be very weak. So he can be a very annoying person to play as, because you have to spam with him. He's not going to be one of the top tier. Mordex looks like he could slightly be in the top tier, but his strength and defense are just about average. He spends more time just being fast, which means he can sweep in and steal kills, just like Bryn. So he's fun like that. He's fun in that way, just like Nyx and Bryn, but he's not a top tier. Yumiko is actually pretty fun, even though 2 of his attacks are just a stun. He focuses on speed and dexterity, so he can easily dodge and hit your opponent more often than he can hit you. This is actually a pretty good one, even if, like, a pretty well-rounded one. Even though you got to hit people more often, it's very rewarding to win with him because you know you tried hard. But he's not a top tier. Artemis, same kind of story with Artemis as Bryn and Mordex. Very fast. He'll sweep in and steal kills, but in order to get kills, it's going to take a bit more hits than any of the top tiers. He's not a top tier. Caspian, almost top tier material, but his defense is his worst attribute. He instead is very fast, which makes him very capable on the battlefield as long as you stay away from other people. If you do your best not to get hit and you're the one doing all the heavy hitting, Caspian could be one of the best people out there, but he's not a top tier. Sidra, her best abilities are strength, defense, and speed, all even, but they're just above average, so she's not going to be a top tier. However, with her strength, defense, and speed being above average, she is one of the best to play as, just like Caspian, Bryn, and Mordex. And then Zol is the strongest legend. And his defense is actually his second best attribute, but it's average. Now, with that, I won't put him in the top tier because his defense is just average. If it was just slightly above average, I would have put him in the top tier, but it's sometimes difficult to use Zol, especially since he's so slow and he has low dexterity. So he is not a top tier. Kaya, very fast, very durable. It's very easy to use her. You do have to do a lot of hits though, because she has very low attack, so she's not going to be one of the top tiers. But again, with same as Yumiko, when you win with her, it's very rewarding because you know you tried very hard to get there. Isaiah, highest is defense, second highest is dexterity, so he's not going to be a top tier. He's only average with attack. He's actually pretty difficult to use as well. I think he's a bit more difficult than Zol. I'll have to try again to play as him, because the last time I played as him, I was just having a hard time landing any hits. It might be just because I was fighting people who were quick. Like Gyro. Gyro, not going to be in one of the top 10s, because his strength is his second worst attribute, and it's only average. But he is fast, and he's got a good amount of dexterity, so you know he can run around and get a lot of hits in, and it's going to be rewarding to win with him because you tried very hard, even though he's got low defense, very low defense, like Jala and Ada and Thatch. Lin Fei. Her weakest are strength and defense, so she's definitely not going to be a top tier. You can, however, win with her because she's so fast and she's got a lot of dexterity. One of my favorite things to do with her is just spam. And that's really annoying for some people. Whenever I use her, I get angry messages about spamming, but that's the only thing you can do with her, really. You toss someone up and out of the ring, and then you have to jump and toss them again, and then jump and toss them again, and then finally they'll be able to go out. Whereas if you're using someone like Zol, it would just take the initial hit and they'd be out. It takes a lot more work to get someone out, and it would piss people off. Zariel, his best two are attack and defense. They are the same. He is a top tier. He is actually pretty good to fight with. His moves are very well rounded, and they've got a good range on them. He is one of the best. He's actually my brother's favorite, even though my brother's played this game only a couple of times. And he hasn't played every single legend yet. I'll have to get him over here to see how he does now. His favorite is top tier. We got 5 top tiers now. We got Zariel, Taros, Azoth, Cross, and Queen Nai. Rayman, Jeremy's favorite, my little boy's favorite. And his highest are defense and speed. He's very good for stealing kills and just sweeping in when it's unexpected. And he's kind of difficult to knock out. is rewarding to win with him, even though you're kind of like, I stole a whole bunch of kills to get here, but he's actually very fun to use too. Dusk, not a top tier because his lowest is defense, but it won't take too many hits to get someone out because he has an above average attack and he can hit more often than anyone else because he has a pretty good dexterity. Thing is, you have to be pretty sneaky with your attacks in order to do so because he's actually pretty slow and you have to be able to dodge somehow. He's kind of difficult to use, but if you're able to win with him, it's kind of a surprise and it's rewarding in that aspect. He's a very strange person. Legend, whatever. Fate. Not a top tier because her defense is the lowest. Her defense and dexterity are lowest, which means her strength and speed are the best. And that means she can be quite annoying when it comes to fighting against her, because she can just run around the map faster than you. And when you finally get close enough, she'll just turn around and smack you out of the ring. She's a very mischievous legend. It's pretty fun to win with her. Thor. Not a top tier, even though his strength and defense are the best. His defense is better than his strength, and his strength only just above average. So, I mean, you could win with him, but it's gonna take quite a few hits, and you will get hit a lot because he's only an average on speed. Petra, not a top tier because defense is the lowest, tied with dexterity, but like Fate, you can run around the map and hit someone pretty hard when you catch them off guard, when you catch them tripping. It's quite fun to win with Petra. Vector has a similar setup to Kea, where his defense and speed are the best. His strength is average though, so it'll take less hits than Kea, because she has below average strength. So you can actually get someone out in a normal fashion with a Vector, and you'll be doing so like an assassin, basically. You'll be sweeping in and they won't even see it coming. Volkov, very unique. He is the only legend with defense and dexterity as the highest abilities, and everything else below average. He is pretty fun to use because he has defense and dexterity as his best. It's always best to keep him on the platform near the center or near the edge if people are low health, and basically spam your heavy attacks. He can be quite annoying to go up against, but he's easy to catch up to because he's got no speed. And finally, Onyx. Onyx is not a top tier because his strength and speed are the same and they're average, and his defense is actually the best. Onyx can be very fun to use, but you have to time your attacks properly because he is pretty slow at swinging his fists and his cannon. But if you can get a good map for it, you'll be able to annihilate anyone and take as many hits as possible. He can actually be pretty good. So we only have 5 top tiers now. We got Zariel of Gauntlet and Bow. We have Taros of Axe and Hammer. We have Cross of Blasters and Gauntlets. We have Azoth of Bow and Axe. And we have Queen Nai of Spear and Katar. Thank you everyone for watching this Unlocking Fun. I hope you had a good time. Let's see these characters out and about. I'm going to be playing as Azoth. And I'll be leveling him up more. I'll see you guys out on the battlefield. Bye.